There are a lot of intelligent people who are of the belief they're stuck on a prison planet. They believe the soul is trapped on earth in a realm ruled by an evil being that harvests and farms the energy or loosh of human beings. Many believe that after we die, the soul is tricked into reincarnating over and over and continually imprisoned in the body for more energy harvesting and exploitation. They say that the light at the end of the tunnel that many experience in out-of-body travels or near-death experiences or comas, we've all heard about it, the light at the end of the tunnel, or the meeting of deceased relatives in their spiritual form, in their light body, or the meeting of angel guides or soul guides, is all part of an elaborate trick or scheme to entrap the soul, to take it and, against their will, force it back into another reincarnation. So even that, according to them, is a conspiracy. Some of them say that planet Earth can't possibly be a learning school or a training ground, as I say, because with each incarnation, your memory is wiped and you start anew in amnesia. And some compare this to the science fiction show Westworld, where the robots' memories are wiped and then they're sent back into Westworld, into the fake reality for more action. And if they'd actually remember how poorly they were treated before their memories were wiped, they'd want to escape. They'd realize this is not the life, this is not reality, this is not good. So a lot of people compare humans to robots, and they believe there needs to be a robots' rebellion. This viewpoint is nothing new. It's been around for hundreds, probably thousands of years. It's the Gnostic view of the world. According to the Gnostics, this realm is governed by the demiurge, and they say we live in a simulation, in a kind of an AI-run program. Some go on to claim that the moon is a soul catcher. I know how far out this sounds, but that's what they say. The moon is a soul catcher, and the moment your soul leaves the body, the moon catches you, processes you, and sends you back to Earth so that you can never get out. And why do Gnostics believe the way they believe? It's because they look at the world and see that it's full of lies, full of illusions. So who can blame them for believing that everything else is also a lie and an illusion? They say that because everything is lies, there's no reason to assume that death itself and the afterlife process are honest or real. So the only right way to live, they say, is to prepare an escape in the afterlife. You use this life to prepare for an escape in the afterlife. They say that's the only proper use of this life, because any trying to change this reality is merely trying to change a prison. Improving this reality is improving a prison. The only thing that matters, according to them, is getting out And the way to do that, according to the Gnostics, is in heightening your awareness to the point you become aware of all the tricks, all the deception. It's in learning out-of-body travel before you die, learning to leave your body before you die. It's in lucid dreaming, it's in extrasensory perception, and all that. Now, as wise and enlightened all of this sounds, I disagree with it. I'm not a Gnostic, and I do not adhere to the mean universe theory. I disagree with everything the Gnostics say, except for the last part, that you should train out-of-body travel, lucid dreaming, heightened awareness. I do support that. But if you had very heightened awareness, not just heightened awareness, which just leaves you paranoid, but very heightened awareness, you'd see that the grand scheme, the bigger game of the universe is benevolent. There's something much bigger going on than just this realm. So the Gnostic view of life provides heightened awareness of evil, and evil does exist. I'm not saying it doesn't. I'm not a new ager who denies the existence of evil and says all is well and all is well and all is pretty much all they say, all is well. No, there is an awareness of evil, but the Gnostics have a low awareness of good. You see, the New Ager has a high awareness of good and a low awareness of evil. But the truth is always somewhere in the middle, in a balanced view. Gnostics, ancient and modern, argue that life is almost 100% suffering to some degree. They say that everybody is suffering to some degree. But that's not my experience of life at all. I'm a reality creator, and I've created a life of strength, joy, kindness, success. So I can't say that life is mostly suffering because my life is mostly not suffering. Some of the Gnostics say that I'm the most dangerous person of all because I make life in prison better for people so that they don't want to escape. They'd say if a person were really suffering, they'd want to escape. You see how that works? So in order to confirm their belief that life is suffering, they need you to suffer. But life is not suffering. Life is a perfect balance of good and evil, of good times and bad times, of lovingness and hate, of fear and kindness. Now, I have a common sense, logical rebuttal for each of the points that the Gnostics make. However, my real reason for not believing that this life is a soul trap is thanks to only one thing. I've met a lot of people. And some of the nastiest, but also some of the most depressed people I've ever had the pleasure to meet or do work with or coaching with adhere to the Gnostic philosophy or the mean world, mean universe philosophy. And adhering to that philosophy is what has made them so sad or so nasty. I judge a belief system by what it does to the people who believe in it. And you might say, well, Fred, that is so judgmental. I adhere to Gnosticism and I'm not nasty. Well, I didn't say everyone, but there's a general tendency that what a person believes influences the way they hold themselves in life and what they experience as a consequence of the way they hold themselves. Their poise, their position, their attitude. If it makes a person cruel and nasty, or sad and depressed, I'd argue it's a false belief system. Or if not false, then at the very least, disempowering. And even if you did believe that you need to escape, wouldn't you prefer to be empowered while trying to escape, feeling strong and healthy? So you see the contradiction there. They disempower themselves through their negative thoughts and then claim they want to escape the realm. But how are you going to escape the realm if you feel depressed? If it makes a human being kind and loving and trusting as well as trustworthy, it's a true belief. Or if not true, at the very least, empowering. Now, I'm not saying that all Gnostics are unfriendly people. Many of them are highly intelligent, highly aware, and you'll find many Gnostics among the elite. So this whole idea that we live in a conspiracy universe is actually an idea that comes from the ruling elite. Those who hate the creator of this universe and position the creator of the universe as this evil being. So I'm not saying that all Gnostics are bad or unfriendly, much less stupid. Many of them are highly, highly intelligent. But behind every antisocial and psychopath person, you will find a similar belief system, an evil universe, evil God belief system, a philosophy that is almost void of hope. And just to be clear, I'm not claiming there is no evil. As I've explained in my books, life is the perfect balance of good and evil. You experience based on your choices. I'll say something controversial. I believe that the mean universe, the soul trap adherents, don't want to take responsibility for their choices in life and then blame an evil entity for when things don't go well. So they create themselves as victims who are in a trap. And they'll do a lot to convince you that you don't actually have free will, that free will is an illusion, that it might look like you have choices. They'll say things like, in a computer game, the character does have a few choices they can make within very, very small limits, and that's to uphold the illusion that there is free will. That's what they'll say, okay? And to some extent that is correct, but that's not because there's some evil conspiracy. That's because every game has certain limits, certain rules. And if you don't want to play by the rules, if you don't want to be limited, you shouldn't be playing the game. You see, when I go play tennis, it's in a certain context and there are certain limits. These are rules, otherwise the game can't be played. And that's not the result of an evil agenda. That's the result of me volunteering to those limits so that I can play the game. I'm also not claiming there are no lies and conspiracies. I understand that almost everything you see in the media and in politics is a lie. I understand that. I agree with that. That is true. And I completely understand if you think the people who believe in the lie are idiots. That's also true. They are idiots. I'm not saying they aren't. But just because a lot in this world is a lie, it doesn't mean that everything is a lie, including the afterlife, including the light at the end of the tunnel. Everything, all of it is a lie, you know. In fact, the Gnostic evil universe theory is the most common theme in entertainment media. Get this. There's almost no Hollywood movie that promotes the idea of a world created by a kind and loving being. Almost all sci-fi, horror, many action movies too, sell this idea of an evil universe that we have to break out of and break free from. The soul trap adherents claim that the media is all lies without realizing that their own belief system about soul traps is media created and media influenced. And if they were to switch off the media and stop watching Hollywood movies for a while and stop looking at social media for a while, the brainwashing would subside and they'd once again be able to experience Earth as a lovingly created, self-sustaining, self-replenishing, beautifully miraculous system. And Hollywood isn't the only place where this soul trap idea has been promoted. It's also been heavily promoted in the metaphysical scene. For example, in the 70s, Carlos Castaneda spoke of entities that harvest our energy. And there are such entities. I agree with that. I'm not disagreeing, but that's not the only game in town. That's like saying because you saw drug dealers in a bad part of town, everyone is a drug dealer and that's the main game, but it's not. There are many other games being played. The out-of-body researcher Robert Monroe spoke of something similar. He was out of body and he saw how some entities harvest people's energy, harvest their sexual energy, their emotional negative energy, even their positive energy. And even so, that's not the only game in town. Now, the other extreme, the other polarity to Gnostics are what we could call New Agers. I think the term New Agers is well enough known that everybody instantly has an idea of what I mean by that. And these are the people that keep insisting that all is well and that any suspicion of evil or wrongdoing is fear-based. And I hear that expression fear-based a lot. And it bothers me because it's often used to cover up great evil, right? Somebody points out corruption or evil and they'll instantly chime in, but that's fear-based. In other words, stop focusing on it. Stop getting involved in it. That's fear-based. Energy goes where attention goes. Well, of course, energy goes where attention goes. And of course, you shouldn't get into it so much that you become fearful, but merely pointing out and observing facts and reality and evil agendas is not fear-based. It's reality-based. It's seeing what is as it is. Fear-based would be if I start getting scared of it because I don't believe in my own empowerment, because I believe I'm weak and I live in a mean old universe. You see how these two opposites, Gnosticism and New Age, they kind of feed each other? So trying to get rid of any suspicion of evil or wrongdoing with saying all is well and those are fear-based ideas is just as foolish and ridiculous as the opposite that sees everything as evil and dark. And you have these philosophies in religion too, by the way. You have these extremes. So I'm not a New Ager. I'm not claiming all is well, because all is not well, okay? I believe the general grand scheme is well, but in the details, not all is well. You know, you could have a medical, pharmaceutical genocide happening right in front of your eyes, and a New Ager would say that pointing this fact out is fear-based. And what's going to happen if we just ignore it as fear-based? Well, that genocide can continue. It is only by pointing it out that we can stop it. You could have astral entities turning a person into a meth addict so that they can suck out their life force, and you'd have a New Ager say, all is well, she's on her own journey, or some such nonsense. So, all is not well, nor is all evil. Instead, I believe our situation to be this. The creator of this realm is benevolent, but allows for some evil in the world to challenge us and help us exercise choice. Thus, the soul within us is good, but we're thrown into an erratic and difficult world ruled partially by very evil people. You see, I've traveled out of body a lot. When I was younger, I even gave seminars in out-of-body travel, and I did a couple of them, but I eventually quit because most people, frankly, were not experiencing out-of-body travel in the out-of-body travel seminar, and there's few feelings worse than collecting money from people and the seminar doesn't work. My rate was about 10 to 20% of people experiencing brief out-of-body trips, but only briefly and vaguely, and that's not enough for me. I realized that a workshop setting is not necessarily the right way to learn out-of-body travel, and a lot of people also have loads and loads of belief systems that prevent them from doing so. For their own protection. That's how they protect themselves. But that's a story for another time. People who believe that this realm is a soul trap or AI simulation haven't traveled out of body that much, in my humble opinion. It's like saying that people from China are evil because you've never traveled there personally and you're only projecting based on one experience you had back home. But once you actually travel to China, your opinion naturally changes because you realize there's good people there and bad people there, just like anywhere else. There's pretty people, less pretty people, and anything in between. So when you out-of-body travel, you also learn that there's good stuff happening and there's bad stuff happening. There's good beings, there's bad beings, and anything in between. There's much more going on. And there are also higher realms, and you know higher realms by how beautiful they are and how they elevate your state. And I've experienced states so elevated and good that in these positive states of pure love, it's impossible to reject that and say, this is a trap. This is a trap for the soul. I reject this. It's also idiotic. It's like seeing an infant and feeling the love and saying, this infant is just a trap. And yes, I understand that some infants do become a trap for parents and they do go through hard times, but even so, the love makes all of those difficulties possible. And that's one of the points of living on earth, to feel that love in spite of difficulty. That's the training. And that makes you so powerful, despite all the suffering and all the problems and all the evil and all the conspiracies. You can still feel the love and come from the chest and treat your fellow humans with kindness. Yes, there are agendas out there to harvest the energy of people. I've explained this in my book, The Electromagnetic Self. Yes, there are evil elites, but that's not the only game happening. The evil is like a small cup of water compared to the tsunami of goodness that is overwhelming the universe. And if you have no access to that, it's because you have disconnected yourself from intuition. You have disconnected yourself from your conscience. I'm saying conscience, not consciousness, conscience. It's a different word, okay? And you have lost the ability for discernment, in my humble opinion. And how did you disconnect from that? Through your own negative conduct, through following your animal self instead of your angelic self. People can get dulled to a point where they no longer feel much, no longer know what to believe or trust, no longer know what's real. There's a real agenda out there to confuse people so they can no longer tell what's real. And this agenda is delivered to you through the media. Back in the day, it was through television. Now it's through social media. All social media is two things: narrative creation and intelligence gathering, data mining. That's why I don't spend too much time there. No more than 20 minutes a day. Because I do need to keep abreast with what people are believing so that I can deliver counter lectures such as this. So there's a lot of people out there, they no longer know what's right or wrong, true or false. And that's actually the evil agenda. That's the real evil. Not being able to discern true or false, because there's so many voices out there. This teacher says this teacher says that, and many come to me, Fred, they say this and they say that, and I say, well, why don't you switch all of them off, including me, off, and then listen to your heart. Look within, because the answers are within. And when Jesus said the answers are within, or God is within you, that's the best thing one can say. That's the best teaching ever, because it switches off all of these voices, some of which are true, some aren't true, but you wouldn't know if you haven't looked within first. And then once people who look within have an easier time discerning truth and falsehood, people who have good conduct in life, who haven't broken their intuition, discernment, and conscience, they can tell true from false easily. It's not that difficult. Falsehood always has the same vibe, whether thousands of years ago or today. It's a vibrational thing. And confusion is a tool of falsehood, a tool of evil. And when you're in a confused mindset, you will call good evil and evil good. You know, somebody doing good, you'll say they have an evil agenda, and somebody doing bad, you'll say they have a good agenda. But you have to look at the fruits of a thing, the overall results of a thing, in order to understand whether something is good or not. And what Gnostics and conspiracy theorists often do is they take their paranoia too far, way too far. Then soon everyone is suspect and everything is a lie, which it isn't. The majority of human beings are good because they carry souls and their conscience is still intact. Because most people do not engage in conduct which breaks the conscience. So the bottom line here is balance. We neither want the ultra-paranoid nor the ultra-new agey. We want a balance. And in that balance, that's where your power is. My name is Fred Dodson. Have a nice day.